We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Men Real Estate Show. We have a lot of news stories this week in real estate that I hope you're going to stick around and find out, because we're wondering if everything is losing steam. Are we all going downhill from here? Dan, say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
That's Dan. I'm Ray. We're both real estate agents that span the globe, depending on which way you travel. So we appreciate you guys joining the show. We're broadcasting in 3 different places right now. Facebook, which if you're joining us, you can make a comment and then we can display your comment and say hi back to you. YouTube, which is the other spot we're currently live. And then finally Clubhouse. So you can comment on Facebook and YouTube. We could display that comment and people could see who's making the comment. On Clubhouse, we'll actually bring up the whole room and we could talk to the whole room directly.
Everyone
all at the same time if we wanted to. But that's a fun way for us to get some feedback. We believe our podcast is fun, but also different because we really like the interplay between us and also the audience, who's really just they're really the contributors. They're the unsung heroes of the show. They're the ones that will back channel us and say, hey, Ray, I found this article real quick. It just came out. You might want to talk about it. So we appreciate you guys making this show what it is. We have a lot of news stories today about losses, which is kind of where the thumbnail came from, about losing steam today. It seems that home builders are restricting sales. And the headline says, home builders are restricting sales, pushing up new home prices. That's an interesting headline. Some would say incendiary. So we're going to talk about why home builders are doing that, and if they are doing that with the intention of pushing up home prices. We also have a surprising reason why, quote, are you ready for it, Dan? Here it is. Home price growth is slowing down.
We're almost there, man. We're almost there.
So close. We've been predicting the home price gain slow for a long time. We said, watch out, guys. Here it comes. This is the closest that we've gotten so far.
Yeah. Remember last week, it was mentioned in the article. Home price gain slowing. And then this week, there's a title suggesting that we're almost there. So, we've been predicting the future for almost 2 months now.
Looks like we've made it. All right. And then, we have 2 comments here. Wait.
We have 50% of the Homegirls Colorado commenting on the show. Wow.
Homegirls podcast joining us live in the Facebook comments.
Yeah.
Lindsay Emerson.
And by the way,
I
met them at about a month ago. I was in Colorado. Lindsay, I already had a good relationship with her. She's amazing in real life. Jessica, she's shorter than you think. Really awesome person, but she's really, really small.
Really, I thought she was kind of short. So
yeah. So if you don't follow Lindsay on social media over on Instagram, you should, because there's a picture of me and all 4. Well, we had 3 of them there, and it's like Lindsay, Angela, Dan, and then there's this tiny little thing.
I love it.
Just kidding, Jessica. Love you.
Producer Matt, he's joining us on the YouTube. I should probably share the show, which I should probably do.
I already did. It's fine.
You did share. Well, Dan shared the show, but if you guys could also share the show, there's a little plus button in Clubhouse. You can click the plus button.
Yes,
and then
please.
Let everybody know who's in the real estate industry that we have this podcast going on. They can join live and join on the podcast. You can also share it on the YouTubes by participating. Actually, when you participate, it kind of boost us up in the live rankings there so other people can see it. And on Facebook, you can hit the little share button and actually share it to your page. We'd appreciate it if you guys.
It's a new option. The share option is a new option, but hey, please share.
Just take a second to do that. Oh, Christian Harris says, very echoey in CH. Are you guys recording in a bathroom?
Yes.
No, but that's really interesting that it's that echoey. I wonder why. We'll try to fix that during the commercial break.
Quick.
Says,
Let's take a commercial break.
I have no idea. I have no idea why it would be echoing. I'm only broadcasting on one. Maybe I should move the location. Hang on, I'm going to move the location of the.
There's literally 1,000 cables getting this show connected to you guys. So
there is a lot of cables going on right now.
Thank you.
She says, yes, I'm a hobbit. Okay, that is short.
Yeah. By the way, Jessica has 2 different thank yous. One, when she's genuinely saying thank you. And then there's the other one that has a little snark behind it. And it's thank you.
Thank you. Oh, wow. Hang on. That could be why. All right. Let me see if did that change it, Christian? Let me know. I just stopped something happening on the back end, but I couldn't hear it on my end. So maybe they can hear it on there. There's a lot of duct tape and gum holding us
Yeah.
together today. I had it. So real truth, right? So normally I will jump on, and I don't know if you guys know Candace in the clubhouse, but if you know Candace, I'll jump on her show that starts at 11 o'clock Central, and I'll listen to it's all about like social media and stuff. She's got some of the best advice on the internet for that kind of stuff. So I normally join her show, and it was really fun to be in there with the people, but I was driving back from an inspection, and it went a little longer than I wanted it to. So I was like pedal to the metal in order to get back here on time to start this. So another reason why we're starting at 12:20, besides I needed my phone to get a little bit extra charge. We are running low, folks. So fun day. It's not even through halfway through the day, and I've already had to charge my phone twice.
So it's going to be a 3 or 4 charge day.
It will probably be a 4 charge day today.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. So, Dan, before we get into some of these headlines, I went through a couple of them. One of the biggest ones is the landlord that's going to be suing Los Angeles for $100 million. We have some.
Did you read that one, by the way?
News. No, I didn't. I
didn't
get all the way through it. So it's rather long.
I have a lot of good notes on that one.
Okay, good. I really want the resolution. I didn't make it to that resolution side. Compass. They're losing less money than you think. Profit, no thanks to iBuyers. And Rocket Homes is making waves because they are starting real estate brokerage. So we will talk about that and its impact to real estate agents. But Dan, before we get into all these articles and start talking about all this news, could you tell people what we actually do this show for, what it's all about?
You know what? I'd love to. Now, when Ray and I met here on the interwebs 67 years ago, it was early on in the interweb days. But I had an idea for a show because I'm in fact a bearded man of real estate. And when I met Ray, I noticed something very interesting about him.
Really? What was that, Dan?
He was a teenage bodybuilder.
Dan, I had the book, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Bodybuilding Encyclopedia, when I was in high school. And you couldn't be further from the truth. I actually started, I didn't really do any kind of lifting or anything. And my dad got this book and started highlighting it all and researching all this stuff. And I can remember being out in my garage and lifting and wondering why don't I just go play? Why am I doing?
Yeah. Why don't I go do something?
Such a waste of time. The best shape of my life. It's just a short aside, guys. I was in the best shape of my life right before I got married. It was called LGN mode. I had a friend that was into bodybuilding and was actually doing a competition. He was like, why don't you just lift with me and together we can get fit, and you for your wedding, I was like, okay, let's do this. So I started to have round muscles, my biceps were shaping up, my chest, everything was starting to look good. Abs were starting to come in, and I was working out really hard. And this little old lady came by and she said, oh my gosh, you work out so hard. And I said, well, I have to, I'm about to get married. And she said, oh, I think you're going to look fine in a tux. And I said, ma'am, I'm not worried what I'm going to look like in the tux. And she got red-faced and started laughing. And then from then on, every time she saw me in the gym, she would just start laughing automatically. It's just okay. So it's that LGN mode. So now I do the CrossFit. I got up to 315 pounds of not muscle. And so I've been devoted to CrossFit for a long time. But no, that happened a little bit after high school. You're just slightly off on the timeline.
All right. So in case you guys don't know, every week I'm just guessing at something. I'm making up some funny fact about Ray, and I swear 9.9 times out of 10, he's got some story that goes along with it. So we get to learn a little bit about the history of Ray. But obviously when I met him, I noticed that he's a beautifully bearded man. But what I also noticed is that he loves giving value up front to not only his clients, but just to humans in general. So the show's about being more as an agent, but also being more as a human.
Yeah, one of the ways we believe that you could be more, especially if you're in the real estate industry, is to know what in the world's going on in the real estate industry. And that's why we formulated the show. We wanted people to have one place to go where they could get kind of a broad overview of the news that may impact or affect them if they were interested in investing in real estate, buying real estate, or if they were an agent and they were consulting with their clients on the biggest purchase of their life, in some cases, the biggest investment they make a lot of times. So that's why we do the show. Oh, producer Matt, this is great. This is a new show in itself, Bodybearders.
Bodybearders.
Yeah, Natty,
which could be when you just grow out all your body hair, I guess.
Natty Alcon says hello. Christian Harris, troubleshooting our audio due to being on stage. Audio quality is much better when I put myself back in the audience. Oh, that is interesting. I have noticed a differentiation in that, and I don't know why that's there. So on Clubhouse, you can hit the 3 little dots at the top. If you hit those 3 little dots at the top and then click audio quality, you'll see normal. You could change that to high, but I have to warn you, if you change it to high, it will adjust your audio quality, but it might also take up a little more bandwidth. So if you have a bad signal, it might not be great. So I just adjusted my audio quality. Hopefully that would also help. Caroline Clinton, she's in the house. What's up, Caroline? That is producers Matt's other half. They're talking now. They're flirting now. Oh my god. Oh my god.
What about you?
Yeah. All right. So are you ready to go?
100%. And by the way, if you guys hate this banter,
it's too late now.
It's way too late now. You're stuck. You're 10 and a half minutes into the show. But when we there will be links on the YouTube
and
on our YouTube page. You can just click through this. You can get rid of all this boring banter, much maligned banter, we like to call it. But I'm ready to go.
It's been divided. But yeah, you can just click the little timestamp and zoom right to the article you're interested in. All right, so let's go.
And just like that, we're into the headlines.
We are in the headlines. So speaking of builders, the headline is home builders are restricting sales, pushing up new home prices. And it sounds like home builders are the bad guy here. Watch out. They're restricting sales. They're not building enough and they're pushing up the home prices. So you guys have to pay for it. That's not exactly what's happening. Basically, a lot of home builders across the United States have sold more homes than they can build. So they sold the homes in their inventory. Then they pre-sold a whole bunch of homes. And those are homes that they have to finish. Now they could pre-sale more homes, but it puts them in a very difficult position predicting materials prices and cost, predicting, even city ordinances at this point, because a lot can happen in a year. So this article is on realtor.com, and that's just what they said. Home builders have sold more homes than they can build. Now they're limiting their sales in an effort to catch up, helping push home prices even higher. I don't think that's their intent, but I think that's what's happening. This is a quote from Dr. Horton.
Yes.
We know it's DR, but it's just funnier to say. Through our history, we have somebody walk into our models to tell them now we don't have a house for you to buy today is something that's foreign to us. That's David Auld. He's the chief executive officer of DR Horton.
Dr. Horton.
Their latest sales fell 17% in the most recent quarter from a year earlier as the company slowed its sales pace. They said, quote, "We're managing through a market that none of us have ever seen." You guys could see more of this information. It kind of goes into a little more of the stats and facts. And Dan, I also know that you have some more on this that you want to hit up too. But our big question is, are you guys seeing this in your market? Are you seeing that home builders are pre-sold and they have so many pre-solds that they got to catch up first before they sell any more? Or do you still have builders that are like, I need more to sell?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. It seems like it's a very nefarious, to use a word that I learned from Ray. It's a very nefarious headline. Home builders they're not selling their houses, and that's driving home prices up. Like they're doing it on purpose, but it's really not that. They're like, we would love to sell this house, but we can't sell this house. And there's a good stat that I pulled here. So recent housing data reflects a discrepancy between building and selling in the new home market. Housing starts, a measure of using U.S. home building activity, climbed 29% in June from a year earlier. So that's awesome, right?
Yeah, that's really good.
But sales of newly built homes slid 19% in the same time frame. So that's awesome that there's more starts, but they just can't keep up. They can't build houses in a few weeks, and they're managing it in a bunch of different ways. Some are doing first come, first serve. Just, hey, this house is, some are waiting until they're like 3/4 of the way done, and then it's just first come, first serve. Some are doing lotteries. And there was one family they mentioned that lost out on 3. They do monthly lotteries, and they lost out on 3 in a row, and then finally got that. They won in their 4th attempt at this monthly lottery to get a home. And they're like, it was awesome. It feels good. And I like that everyone's getting a chance here, but it's also really, really frustrating.
Nadia Alcon, I hope I'm saying your last name right. She said, we have had consistent deals with D.R. Horton. However, yes, the time frame to get the home built has gone from a 3-month time frame to 6 to 7 months now for completion. A lot of our houses in our area were already at 4 or 5 months prior to the pandy, and now they're sitting around 8 to 9 months in our area. Jessica Lentz said that it's a combo. Some builders have started to reach out that they have inventory to sell, and have even started increasing commissions again in some communities. Others are doing what you're saying with the slowdown in production. So I wonder if the ones that are reaching out to you saying, hey, we have some houses to sell, I wonder if they had a couple sell at, setting a new price per foot record in their area. And so now they're trying to keep up with that same price per foot, but building the same exact thing. But the demand is waning just slightly, or maybe there's more satisfied demand, which could mean, Dan, that home price gains may slow. What?
We're getting there. We will see the titles, I think, sooner than later. And within the next month, we will see home price gains slow.
Well, this is the closest we've got so far. Again, this one was also from Realtor.com. Realtor.com putting some good articles out this week. It says the surprising reason why home price growth is slowing down. Sometimes numbers can be deceiving. On one hand, the wild home price growth seen during the pandy has been steadily slowing nationally, signaling that the market is starting to cool. However, this is likely because there are more smaller homes on the market and fewer larger, more expensive ones, according to the recent Realtor.com report. Now, this article goes back to a time that we reported on about 4 months ago, in which we saw a huge increase in the average home sale price. And one of the things, Dan, that we talked about was that the lack of inventory on the bottom 1/3 of the market meant that fewer homes in that area, in that price range, were selling, but there was more inventory in the middle and upper end of the market. So they were able to satisfy that demand, which then pushed up the average home price sale. So here we are 4 months later, and the conclusion is that in the bottom half of the market, they had fewer homes to sell. But the way they're getting to this conclusion is kind of the reverse. They're seeing that now there is more inventory in the bottom 1/3 of the market, which is putting a drag on the home price growth report that we see. So what might actually be happening is that home prices are still increasing, and they are still increasing at a fast pace. But due to the sales in the lower 1/3 of the market, you're not able to see that on a national average.
Right, because there's more of them, so it pulls that number down.
Is that a full summary of the article? Did I say all that right? Was that easy to understand? Flash your mic in Clubhouse if that made sense, because if that did not make sense, we can dive a little deep. Nobody's flashing the mic, so it didn't. Jan's flashing the mic. He gets it. Okay. So hopefully that was kind of an explanation. Dan, do you have any more on that one?
Nah, just that, the median days on market is 38 now. So that's slowing down as well. And that's, but that's still a year ago. That's still 22 days faster than a year earlier, but still 38 days is slowing down a little bit. There's also more houses coming on the market. Inventory rose 6.5% annually in July. So that's overall, I think the last 3-ish weeks since we started this kind of reaching out to our, when we're doing the pre-show show on Clubhouse, when we're trying to get that sense of what's happening in other markets. Since we started asking that question, are things slowing down about a month ago? We've been reporting that there's more and more inventory coming on the market.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Logan, we don't have an article from him today, I don't think, but that's one of the things that Logan with Housing Wire was saying too when he was up on our show. Okay, so speaking of more inventory, the rise in affordable listings. So this also kind of takes into account the last article that we talked about, more sales in the bottom 1/3 of the market. The rise in affordable listings gives first-timers hope. So this is from magazine.realtor. What?
It's like a Star Wars title. They've got a new hope.
You are our only hope. See, there's the 20% battery warning on the. Whoa,
All
we're
right,
getting
let's go.
dangerously close.
Let's go.
Okay. So housing inventory increased with an uptick in affordable homes, which could lead to a possible door opening for more first-time home buyers. The new listings rose 6.5% in July, which I think is kind of what you were just saying.
Yeah.
This is a quote from Danielle Hale, Realtor.com's chief economist. July housing trends show a market still working its way back to some version of normal. The feverish pace of home sales is beginning to follow historical seasonal patterns. While new listings grew at an unusually high rate for the summer months, further helping the inventory crunch. This shift in the housing market balance in a more buyer-friendly direction. But buyers may not see a price moderation as suggested by the national's trends because it's partly attributed to the shift to smaller homes for sale. Good quote. That's also from the Realtor.com chief economist, who Realtor.com wrote the previous article that I think that was based on. Nevertheless, they say that the change in housing inventory levels will continue. Quote, we could see a wave of real estate activity heading into the later part of the year. That's one of the big stories of last year, was that it seemed like whenever the world went on lockdown and they were delayed for 2 or 3 months, and in some places like Pennsylvania, our good friend Colin J.J. Cameron was non-essential. So he was out for a long time. So
and it's
all
sad
those
because he's
delays-
very essential to most of us.
He's very essential to me. But all those delays and everything that happened created some pent up demand in the housing market. And then as soon as things were loosened a little bit, or in actuality, what happened is we all kind of learned to live with this thing. Right. So as soon as that started to happen, then it was pent up demand that reached on into, what was it? November, December, January, February of this year.
Yeah.
So the big story was, how do you predict a seasonal trend? And over the years, there's always kind of been these seasonal trends and patterns, but we had a huge variation last year. Now, what the economist from Realtor.com is saying is that it looks like it may start to return to normal, but there could be some more sales into the fall and winter months this year. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a minute before we get into, and you're going to see my cat's butt jump through the camera in a second here, but just FYI, if you're listening on Clubhouse, sorry. You're not see.
See what you miss if you're not on the YouTube.
Oh, there she goes. Hi. I think it's going to be a minute before we see. Okay, you can't. I was just kind of kidding. You don't need to leave your butt there. This is live. I think it's going to be a minute before we see any sort of normal again. So anyone saying that it's going to be normal by the end of the year, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's just going to be a consistent cooling off. Again, scalding hot, cooling off down to burning hot, so it's going to be a minute, because at this point, with new construction being so far behind and not enough inventory coming on the market, it's going to take a minute before things. And by the way, interest rates, which we're going to get to, they're not going up.
Yeah. I'd like to go to some of the folks that are in Clubhouse, if we could bring them up. We're also having a good discussion in the comment section as well. But I have a big question. Justin, I know you're in Canada. We've covered 3 articles, and just to summarize what 3 articles we covered: the builders were restricting home sales, not because they want to push up prices, but because materials, land, labor, that's all an issue. And they've sold more homes than they can build. So they have more pre-solds out, and they, if they add anything else to it, they're looking for a year or 2 out. The other thing we talked about was the surprising reason why home price growth is slowing down is not that the price growth is slowing down, but that the bottom 1/3 of the market is actually selling. And because of that, your average home price that you see does appear to be going down. And so it kind of gives some people some false, like, oh no, home price they're going down. They're not really. It's just the average is. And then the last thing that we talked about was, because there is more inventory in the bottom of the market, we are seeing a rise in some affordable homes that they are starting to sell again because there is more inventory there. Yeah. So, Justin, if you're here, I would love for you to chime in on what is happening in Canada. This is a worldwide show. We have people from all over the world that listen in. We're number 16 news commentary show nationally in Taiwan. So,
but anyway.
And right as I start to go to Justin's get the call. All right, Justin, let me go to you real fast, though. You can get back on that call if you have to. What are you seeing in Canada? Are you guys seeing the same thing?
Hey man, this is a galactic show. If you ask me, it reaches far beyond just
Boom,
planet
boom,
Earth.
boom,
But you
boom.
guys are killing it. I think that topical conversation is bang on what I'm seeing. It's the exact same thing, right? So from the building perspective, builders are including clauses that they're quoting houses now, but really they're not firm quoting houses. It's going to change based on material costs. We've been able to include a couple conditions for our buyer clients, indicating, well, if costs go down, we actually get that benefit as well. That's a strategy that we've been using. But a lot of my consultations is telling people, like, if we're not building for a year, let's slow down. Let's focus on the plans and the designs. And, we may have to go to contract closer to the actual build date to avoid some of the issues, land costs and everything else. I know that, every builder I'm talking to right now and developer, mostly builders, are just exhausted. Like, they're getting it from every single supplier and angle. Now resin is a big problem. So anything that touches resin, which is PVC piping to bath fittings and everything else, that supply chain's shot. It's just exhausting for them, right? So I think if you can have a little bit of empathy that they're human beings at the end of the day, you can build some longer term relationships and find success still for your buyers in this marketplace. The trend that I'm seeing from the pricing, exact what I said to a client yesterday, the upper price point actually stalled and is taking longer days on market to sell, and lower priced inventory is coming online, and we are seeing that swing as well. I think the average price point conversation is a nice metric, but consumers need to be very careful, because when they think that, well, my market went from 275 in 2013 to 600 now, this market's crazy. That doesn't really mean anything, because there's still tons of supply and options in the 300 to 500 range. They just don't know where to look for it or how to approach it, because they're just headline reading. So that's kind of a summary of what I'm seeing. And I consistently see it across North America. So I don't think it's unique to anyone.
Good word. Thanks, Justin. And yeah, we were rah-rahing you on our end, because that's also what we're seeing. So I think that's the best way to play it. And I'm wondering if there's going to be some talk about alternative materials. We've talked about that in the past as well.
Yeah,
where it
but
looks
where are
like,
they?
yeah, you could have 3D printed homes right now. If they kind of catch up, they're a little slow in getting that together. There's, I think I've talked about the Gablock before, which is an amazing alternative product.
There's tiny homes on big lots.
Yeah. And I think the problem has always for those been the lender, right? And it's not the lender's fault. It's the underwriters, investors, and all that have been slow to invest in those concepts. But in a situation like this, in which builders are backed up a year or two, if you have something that can build a home in a month or 2 months, then it could be the savior in a lot of markets that just need affordable inventory.
Yeah. And for them, it's all about their investment, or their, getting their investment back, so if they just need to change things. And we've been talking about this for a while. Like, where did it first start? I mean, we first saw the 3D printed homes. They were in third world countries that needed, but then it was in Arizona was the first one.
I can't remember what area, but yeah, the first we talked about were being done affordable housing for other countries.
Yeah. And then it was done here, and it was for homeless. And it was like, well, they need to adapt, because this is a new way of housing. And you got to, in my opinion, you got to assume everything is 3D printable now, every single thing. So at some point, we're going to be 3D printing, not just one home at a time, but we're going to be 3D printing tracts of homes, so you got to adapt at some point. And why not? It's an investment that someone can afford, someone can pay for. And, it's a smart investment. It's a home, so.
Anyone else want to chime in on that before we go to the next topic? If you do, just flash your mic. I'll come to you. If not, all right, there's Jan.
I just kind of wanted to make the point about, that lower third of the market getting more inventory. It's that false, hey, things are slowing, or home price gains are slowing.
Yeah.
But imagine all those buyers that have been priced out and they're just waiting. Now now they're getting that inventory. They're going to start buying it up. So there might be a little heat up. It may bring down the median or the average price, but it may heat up in that lower third as more inventory starts coming up. Yeah. And then for us here in LA, I'm in Southern California. When we get up over $1 million, again, things aren't slow, but instead of going against 20, 25 offers, it's more 5 to 7, and it's a little less competitive. We can actually keep our appraisal contingencies intact now. So it's kind of nice.
I want to go to Natty too. She's talking about the alternative resources. Then I'll come to you, Jan. She says, funny thing, we have investors here and buyers looking for builders for container homes, but that concept just hasn't been embraced on this end. Yeah.
Yeah. And that'd be a great alternative as well. But
Yep.
again, you got to find financing for it if you can't, pay for it outright.
I'm surprised we haven't heard anything from Christina M. Small.
She'll be here.
Usually. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Jan, what is your take on this, man? What are you seeing? Are you there? Hello. He may have had to jump on a call or something.
Happens.
Jan, going once. Oh, yep, here he is.
Yes,
all right, Jan, what's
yes,
up, man?
yes, yeah. So yeah, I just I lost you for a second, I think. So yeah, I wanted to couple things. I think printing is a wonderful thing that could happen, and I have my brother-in-law in.
Uh-oh. Oh, we lost you, man. You have your brother-in-law where? See, connectivity issue.
So
oh, now I can hear. Well, you're probably going to cut in and out, Jan. So I think you'll have to jump back in when you can, or just shoot me a direct message and I'll get you on there. Sorry, man. Cutting in and out.
man.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Oh, can you hear me now?
Well, we can now. Yeah. Yeah, we can hear you now. Try again.
Okay, cool. So I was just saying that like printing is a phenomenal shift and change that could happen in the real estate industry, and I know that like in aerospace, it's been very prominent and has created a lot of new changes and improvements. So that same thing could really help the real estate industry. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about,
oh man.
Right when you get to the
suing the governor of California for the overstepping for the landlords' rights. So
we're getting there,
very
buddy.
passionate about that topic, and I wanted to make sure I do not miss it when you talk about it. So just wanted to highlight.
Yes, I'm definitely going to come to you when we talk about this for sure. We got one article before we get there. We're just going to touch on this because we've been touching on it the past couple of weeks. It's been a headline that we've been seeing that the variant fears are sending the 30-year mortgage rates down to 2.77. Last week they jumped all the way up to 2.8, and now they're at all the way down to 2.77. This is still a really good sign for home buyers who are looking to maintain a low rate for a 30-year fixed mortgage, or for somebody that hasn't refied yet that's been waiting on them to bottom out. I don't know how much more bottom out. 2.77 is like you get a savings account and make more money than that.
And that's on the 30-year fix. So that means, my clients got on a VA loan they bought down, they got 2.25. On a VA loan, $689,000 purchase price. Like that's insane. So like a 15-year fixed is what, 2 points?
Yeah, I actually asked, we're going through a refi right now because we saw the rates go so low, and I'm like, all right, it's time. So we're I know people are like, why didn't you do it last year? Well, it was just not the right timing. So now it is the right timing. So we're going to do it. But I asked him, I was like, just quote a 15-year fix so I could see that, because if our payment doesn't change and we go to 15 and then we can double pay and get it
or
off.
if it goes up by $50 a month, $100 a month,
Yeah,
and you're done in 15 years. Like,
yeah, it's so great. All right. So we just wanted to mention that article comes to us from Housing Wire, but is also mentioned just about everywhere on the interwebs. And then I wanted to get to this article that Jan was just talking about. This is on the Los Angeles Times. And Dan, I know you've done some extensive research in this one, so I'll let you talk mostly. But just to give everyone an overview of what's happened, there's a landlord that has sued LA for $100 million, saying the anti-eviction law caused astronomical losses. One of the region's most prolific apartment builders has sued the city of Los Angeles over its Rona eviction moratorium, saying that his companies have experienced astronomical financial losses. To sum up the losses, so far they've lost about $20 million in rental income as a result of the measure, but they believe that by the time the whole lawsuit shakes out, it's going to be an additional $80 million, which is why they're suing for $100 million. The city enacted its temporary, quote unquote, temporary eviction restrictions in March 2020, just as it was triggering the Rona was triggering business shutdowns. I want to get There was a quote I liked. All right. While the eviction moratorium ostensibly protects tenants who are unable to pay rent due to the circumstances related to the Rona pandy, it arbitrarily shifts the financial burden onto property owners, many of whom were already suffering financial hardship as a result of the pandy and have no equivalent remedy at law, said the lawsuit. There's one part of this that talks about the amendment. I want to find that quote too. All right. So Palmer's companies allege the moratorium, first put in place by Mayor Eric Garcetti as an emergency order, then approved as an ordinance by the city council, violated the takings clause, quote unquote, established in the Fifth Amendment, which says that private property shall not be taken for public use without just compensation.
Public use.
Public use. So how do we define public use, Dan?
But if I live in a place, I mean, to me, public use is a park, but how is a housing complex public use?
So the public use would be preventing someone else from spreading the Rona to the public. That is the public use of making people stay in the houses. Does that make sense? So when I first read that, I was like, well, public use, this is a private residence. How could that be considered public use? The use is preventing someone from leaving in order for the good of the public, right? That's the argument, is they have to do this moratorium because it's for the good of the public.
Right.
Well, if it is for the good of the public, now you're making people stay in their houses, that you can't evict them, and that's for quote unquote public use.
Right. So to help protect the public. Right. Which, again, we've talked about this part a lot, but would evicting people increase? Because it's all of these articles say, if people get evicted, the Rona is going to go up. And they say in areas where they've seen it go up, but we don't ever see any stats on it. And I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying
that was my big question. And there's another article that we could kind of join these, but we could go back to the specific LA case. The other article is that the eviction moratorium, small housing providers had to court. So this is the other lawsuit that's happening regarding this. Alabama and Georgia Association of Realtors filed an emergency motion Wednesday night, it's last Wednesday, right after our show, in which we talked about.
They always wait till right after the show.
Anyway, we talked about it last week too, the extension of the federal eviction moratorium. Judge Tammy Frederick to the U.S. District Court, asking her to enforce the U.S. Supreme Court recent order that the CDC would not extend the moratorium without new legislation. Let's see. Housing providers then asked D.C. Circuit Court to lift the stay. After being denied that request, petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to intervene and end the ban immediately. On June 29th, the majority of the Supreme Court indicated the CDC lacked authority to implement a national eviction moratorium. The High Court allowed the ban to expire at the end of July, but stated that any further extension would need congressional authorization, which is not what happened. Instead, there was just another. And I don't know, like, I don't watch a ton of news. I read the news and I kind of look up in my trusted news sources. And it was really interesting when I read some of the breakdown of what the president and some of the people associated with him, whenever they put this in place, they were like, we don't know if this will hold water constitutionally. Like, they literally said this. We don't know if this is constitutional. We're going to do it anyway.
But we feel like we have to do it. And then that's what I always question about our government. And I don't want to go on a side here, but
the definition of doing something that's not constitutionally allowed is that's breaking the law.
That's breaking the law, and it's not why our government's in place.
So it's weird. Like, here they are. I've never seen someone admit that, like, in an interview. Like, normally they say, like, what the presidents have said in the past, like, oh yeah, I mean, this is totally constitutionally correct according to our scholars. That is opposite of what they're currently saying. They're like, no, we're going to do this, and it's probably not constitutionally allowed, but we're going to try it anyway. This is like weird.
We live in weird times, man.
Let's go back a little bit to the LA article and the lawsuit. What were some of your main points that you wanted to bring out in this one?
So there's a lot to unpack. When I'm going to start kind of at the end of the article and work backwards, because there's a lot of moving parts, we'll say, to this one. So let's see.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, so because I'm going back, I'm trying to read through my notes. So this is so Palmer, it's Jeffrey Palmer, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He has tangled, again, this is later in the article. Palmer has tangled with the city before, persuading a 3-judge panel in 2009 to strike down rules requiring developers near downtown, meaning downtown Los Angeles, to provide a specific percentage of affordable housing in their residential projects. The decision dealt a major setback to the city's affordable housing efforts, said Gross, which is who they're quoting, the tenants' right advocate. So that's from 12 years ago. So he's already on the radar. This isn't just some dude that's like, wait, I don't like this. And remember, I don't know if you covered it, but their company, GHP or whatever it is, they have about 15,000 rentals. And and you've seen, if you drive through downtown LA, you'll see these properties. There's 2 of them they mentioned in the article, and then one in like Woodland Hills areas, but they're all in here in California. So he's already been on the radar. And kind of think about that one. Rules requiring developers near downtown to provide a specific percentage of affordable housing in their residential projects. He got them to strike that down. So it kind of says
his argument would be the same as if you were, if you were going to buy a house in a neighborhood and you're like, by the way, this neighborhood, these certain 10 homes in this area are more affordable and they're required to be more affordable by the city. But here's your house over here that is less affordable and super bougie and nice. Or you could go out a little ways and move into this other development in which all of the homes match yours and there would be nothing to deter from your price per foot. I assume that's kind of the same argument he made in the city, saying if you do that, if you allow a certain number of affordable units in a complex that he was building, then you could detract from the overall value of each unit.
Right.
That I'm assuming that's the argument he made, which, if an appraiser looks at it, I don't know how would they just like cut out, they would not look at those affordable units. They would look at everything else. Like how does an appraiser do that? I don't know. I'm really asking how an appraiser does that calculation, but
yeah.
It seems like he's more free market minded. Let me build what we want to build, and let's let.
And then if it works, it works. That's what I was going to say. If I build this thing and no one wants to live there, no one gives me the rent I'm going to charge, then, well, that'll be your affordable housing. I'll have to drop the rents.
Yeah,
but he gets it. Those places, and they're very, very nice. They're all kind of Mediterranean. They're not my style, but they're all kind of Mediterranean themed and Italian countryside kind of thing. But I mean, they're cool and they brighten up downtown LA. So I totally get his point, and I also understand I'm always of 2 minds about things, but whoa, Alexa's mad about something. Sorry, kid. But again, I understand tenants' rights activists saying, what they had to say as well. So anyway, that goes back to there. And then this is the part, actually, I'm going to skip a part because there's a big part in here as well. But the legal filings come less than 2 months after the governor of our state, Gavin Newsom, extended the state's eviction moratorium until September 30th, offering to cover 100% of the back rent and utilities owed by many low-income residents whose finances were hurt by the Rona. Both renters and landlords may apply. Landlords seeking aid must provide information from their tenants showing that their income qualifies them for relief. That's where the other pitfall was, Ray, last week or the week before, whenever we covered it, was some of these landlords, their tenants aren't replying to them, aren't responding to any calls, so they can't get relief because they have to provide information from their tenants
in order to get it. Yeah. It's kind of like when people are getting foreclosed on, or if they're going through a short sale specifically, the person that is going through the short sale has to provide all this documentation every month, updating financials and everything in order to make it through the short sale. And that's often what ends it, because they can't continue to provide all the documentation. They don't stay on top of it, and then they're out.
Yeah.
So similarly, a tenant would have to go along with the landlord. And in some of these areas, they may not have a great relationship to begin with.
Well, they may not have a great relationship. And what if they don't have a job, but they're getting their stipend, and they're like, well, I don't need to work. I'm good. So I'm not going to provide anything, and I'm not going to pay any rent. I don't have to. That's, I think, where these property owners are coming in, like, hey, because he does say in the lawsuit that this huge financial burden has now fallen on these landlords that were already struggling because of the Rona. And now it's been over a year. And it's great that the money's been out, because I think California laid out a good plan, but the execution is horrible, and now they're getting sued for $100 million before it. But there's let's see, Tracy Jean, I don't know, Rosenthal, a member of the Los Angeles Tenants Union, said the state program ensures that Palmer will, quote, receive every dollar that he is owed. Still, Rosenthal said she does not believe he is entitled to that money. And here's a quote from her. I am not at all convinced that his right to profit by means of passive income should take precedence over the very lives and tenants in Los Angeles whose incomes were severed by the Rona and by public health orders that directed them to isolate and quarantine. So I get her point, but if we didn't shut down all these small businesses, then they'd still be working. It's
weird. Like the whole thought process of, if you evict people, it's going to spread the Rona is weird to me. I mean, like, you're assuming that if you don't evict them, they're staying at home. Like, it's hard for me to fathom exactly where.
Right.
Like, I'd love to see actual studies on this.
Right. So stay at home.
Maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't get it. And I'm open to understanding, but I don't get it. The more I say it, the more people are like, yeah, I don't really get that either.
Right. And remember, we've brought this up a bunch, and that we don't see the stats. So if there's stats out there, please, and by the way, I want to say thanks yesterday on the pre-show show. Who was it that brought up that Georgia article?
Let me see. I had it in the notes here. Peggy.
Yeah. Peggy.
No,
So that's
Peggy
awesome.
brought up
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Peggy brought up the eviction moratorium being battled by Alabama and Georgia.
Because remember, it was national, then it was ending, then it was extended, but all the states are doing different things. And I just want to add one more thing. So I went back to the 2009 thing. So he's been on the radar. But I also want to kind of point out that it's very possible that there may be other motivations to this, why the city doesn't like this guy. So Palmer is a major donor to the Republican Party and a player in local, state, and national politics. This is why I wanted Ray to read this. So far this year, he has put at least $200,000 into the recall committee targeting Gavin Newsom, which is our governor, and at least $110,000 into the effort to recall Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon, according to state records. Palmer hosted a fundraiser for our last president, President Trump, in 2019, and was identified a year later as one of Trump's top donors in California. So there may be, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot to unpack on this one. And I don't necessarily
politics, always politics.
There's always politics in it. It's not just.
Well, from what I hear from my California friends, even on the left, going after against Newsom may be bipartisan. But
yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I don't want to get into it, but
Jan I don't like. He's waiting his turn. He wants to let
who? Oh yeah. I don't like any politicians, and I don't think any of them run their state's country. I don't think any of them run it like they should. But anyway, but I digress. But there might be more to this. But it is interesting that, it's not just, hey, you're not letting me, get my owed rent, so let me get it. So I think there's a lot more to this. But if you want to, is Jan ready to rock?
Yeah, he is. Let me bring him up. And just so you know, Jan, if my avatar disappears, I've got the other bearded man down there, and we will unmute that one and hook it up. So if you see my avatar disappears, because I got low battery. So just hang in there with us, and we'll bring you back up. But sorry, it happens. Stuff happens. All right, Jan, take it away, man. What do you want to say about this?
All right. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak, because I'm very passionate about this topic. It's been one of my biggest pains in here in Southern California. I totally believe that the government and the governor is overstepping his authority and his what he's supposed to do. So I have a couple things I want to talk about. First is
he goes to parties without masks.
Problem
without
with
a mask on, by the way.
caring for the public. But my biggest problem with this moratorium is, they are adding these rules where a good portion of the society who are the homeowners, and not all of them are billionaires.
Uh-oh.
That's what I've said.
No, it's still there. I still got it, Jan, but I lost you, Jan. Where'd you go? Not all of them that are billionaires. What?
And that's their main source of income. So by doing this moratorium, you are basically passing, I think Dan mentioned that, they are passing the buck to, instead of the government taking care of those who are impacted, they are passing the buck to the actual homeowner, that they are also impacted. They may have lost their jobs, or that may be their only source of income. So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. And then I wanted to bring in an example in Europe. Like let's say in London, I have a cousin who lives there, and he was sharing with me that they had a similar thing, but instead of having the landlord taking the hit, the government paid the rent for those who were impacted. And their way of verifying someone who is impacted was way more diligent. So they confirmed someone is really impacted by asking for a few extra documentation rather than just taking their word for it. And then they would go ahead and pay the rent for them for whatever time that they want to have for a moratorium. What we have in California, and I have at least a few of my clients that are hugely impacted, is the tenant, all it takes is just for them to call, text, or email, I'm impacted, I can't pay the rent, and they may not be really impacted. And that really shows when they want to apply for the help from the government, and the only way for them to get that is if the tenant also provides the supporting documentation. And they, a lot of times they don't, because
I still got it. You jumped out again.
He's still
right there. Hanging on by one little yellow bar. All right, there he is.
They are not.
Well, he was back. Jan, you're gonna have to get to a better spot, man. You keep coming in and out on the.
They are trying to silence him, Ray.
I know. Sorry, Jan. If you just shoot.
Cool.
No, I can barely hear you now, but just like give me a 10-second summary of that last point. Now that we got you back.
Okay, cool. So just the 10 seconds it was so one-sided, and the only hope I have is they end this moratorium so that landlords can either sell their property or get the right tenants and get the money they lost. Sorry, I'm not sure if my connection was bad. I'm done.
I got you that time, man. Thank you. And well, thanks for coming up and sharing your opinion. I mean, that's why we love this show. And, I think your passion is not lost on us, because, I think that's exactly what Dan was saying too, is that the combination of how these things are put into place and who is impacted and then who gets the relief, it just is not making sense.
Yeah. And by the way, I love humans. Like I don't want it to be not heard here that we don't miss the importance of taking care of people that need to be taken care of if their job was impacted by the Rona. We get all that. Just how it was handled and how it was rolled out, why not, just like he said in London, who pays that mortgage? Ultimately, the rent goes to the landlord, and the landlord pays their mortgage or pays their bills. So why wouldn't that money just go to them and say, hey, everyone's cool, you don't have to pay, but hey, there's a specific time frame on this where, once things open up, you got to get your job back or get back to moving and then start paying your own rent. But the landlord gets the relief, because having it be in, I don't know how to say it, but where you have to get info from the tenant. Jan said it. What if they don't want relief because they're good? They don't have to pay their rent and they're getting government stipends. What if they're good? And I don't want that to come off as sounding harsh. We do understand the human side of this. We get it. And that's, I think, where this is all coming from, meaning the moratorium. We understand that. But then when you really dig down, it's just so
if I put my tinfoil hat on, I'm thinking about the free housing advocates and stuff like that. And, housing is a right type of stuff is really supporting a lot of that. But
is it though?
That may be tinfoil hats on.
Is it?
Speaking of tinfoil hats, let's talk about Compass. What? So we have a lot of friends at Compass. We actually asked during the show prep show yesterday if we had any friends that kind of wanted to come on. We didn't have anyone raise their hand and volunteer, but the report is kind of throwing shade their way. That's why we wanted to get somebody from
just
Compass.
the title.
Yeah, we're brokerage agnostic. We don't care where you work. You know, you can work at one of the best brokerages in the land or not. It doesn't matter to us.
Except for EXP. I have an issue with EXP. But anyway, go on.
No, I don't have an issue with anybody. We say EXP because our good friend Tim used to be there, who switched to Reels, and then EXP stock really took off. I mean, it took
off.
It really went up and away. So there you go, Tim.
Love you, Tim.
So Compass losing less money than you'd think. So the broker reported $7 million.
That's the title.
Yeah, that's so shady. $7 million loss in Q2 of 2021. Major gains in revenue and market share. So the reason why this is a big news story is because previously we were reporting that Compass lost like $84.2 billion in the second quarter of 2020. I think that's the last time we talked about some of their wins and losses. We also talked a couple of months ago about several lawsuits they were in, and they've kind of been in the news a lot with a lot of the drama stuff. So
how they're pulling agents and then how they're pulling technology. They've been controversial. No, that's not how you say that.
So the New York City headquartered residential brokerage lost money again in the second quarter, but its net loss of $7.1 million was more favorably compared to its deficit of $84.2 million in the second quarter of 2020.
But keep going from there.
When the real estate market faced its pre-pandy low point, but $212 million of negative income in the year's first quarter this year.
What's negative income?
Negative income, reporting.
It sounds good. It's income, but it's negative.
I think it is the way it's reported, but I mean, it's like technically called negative income, but basically I would call it a loss. Meanwhile, the 8-year-old brokerage gross revenue soared to $2.0 billion. So that's really interesting. Granted, 81% of that revenue goes back to Compass agents, mostly
that's the big part
cut of sales commission, but $361 million in revenue after deduction of commissions and other related expenses compares to $151 million of revenue for the first quarter. So the revenue is up, and we've kind of been talking about the strategy as we talked about the lawsuits, which is again why we're bringing this up. The strategy of Compass initially was to raise money and then go buy top producers. Hopefully the top producers would stay with them. Basically, let's buy all the cool kids. Let's give them a sweetheart deal that no one could possibly survive on. And then if they survive, negative income stonks. Thanks, producer Matt. If they can survive, then all the other people would join the brokerage and essentially pay the bill for the cool kids. And maybe that was the tactic. And maybe we're seeing that start to come to fruition.
It might be working.
That's a drastic difference from an $84.2 million loss in the second quarter of 2020 to a $7.1 million loss. That's still that's a huge gain, if you could call it that. Now I've still made more money than Compass in my little bitty company here in Arkansas because I'm in the black. So if you've made $1, you're making more money. So I don't know how all these valuations are done. But it looks like the strategy that they had might be starting to pay off as they're getting more and more agents to join. That means they're gaining market share, which this article does say. And it appears that with that gain in market share that they have it comes from a percentage of their agents who are paying more in fees. Would you say that's kind of what this article is getting at, Dan?
Yeah. So my question is, because remember how they pulled these agents. That was part of these lawsuits, is that they went into smaller brokerages and said, hey, we want to partner with you, or we want to maybe buy you out. Let's see your books. And then they went, never mind. We're good. We've seen who your top agents are. Now we're going to offer them that sweetheart deal. Okay. Yeah. So
that's literally what a couple of the lawsuits were.
100%. And it happened. And then, even if they were pulling big teams. And by the way, I do have to say, there's a lot of Compass agents in Los Angeles city and county, and I've never had a bad experience. I love their technology. I love just kind of their whole rollout on a listing. Always good pictures. Sometimes it's just a standard, hey, email me your offer, but other times they use what was it? I forget what the other one was called. It
High
was
Point or something like that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they use Calendly a lot to schedule showings, and then some have different offer systems. Like we use Transactly for our listings, which is how agents offer on our properties. But I haven't seen that there, but the other system. But it's always been really streamlined and really nice. So I have nothing bad to say about it. But it is interesting because they're pulling good agents. They're pulling top agents, which is cool. But my question now is going back to that stat: 81% of their income is going back to agents. So at some point,
maintain it.
To maintain that's going to be tough. And what they got all the cool kids now. People are like, ooh, Compass is cool, and it's a tech company. We're going to go over there. But those new agents, if they're still offering those sweetheart deals, they can't sustain that. A and B. Any new agents that come in, they're not going to get the 90-10 split anymore. They're going to have to start doing the more standard 70-30. And then what's that going to look like? Is that going to stall their recruiting efforts or what? So that's my question for Compass, but it is interesting. And I would honestly err on the side of, I think if that was their strategy, it's working, I think,
yeah,
right?
It appears to be working. If they get in the positive in Q3 or Q4 of this year, that's going to be huge news.
It'll be, I think, groundbreaking. News. We've never seen that before. Every time we talk about these tech companies, they always lose money, and we don't understand. But it's covering cost.
How this stuff is calculated. Is that covering all the previous deficits as well? Like losing 300 million, losing 100 million, or losing 100 million,
right?
If they're finally in the positive, let's say they get in the positive in Q1, does that mean they've covered all of the previous losses? And
I don't think so.
Well, then I'm wondering, how do venture capitals? I guess they're investing to lose for a little bit and then gain on the long run. But all right, speaking of big companies and even bigger losses, Zillow is also making the headlines. So this was an interesting headline, and we've been talking about the Zillow iBuyer program for a long time and how it's not really making money. We also talked about that not being their primary directive for the Zillow iBuyer program.
It's a marketing tool is what it is.
Right. We said that, or I've said that for a long time, that this is more competition for an investor that's looking for a quick fix and flip. And a lot of people say, no, the iBuyer is taking the place of real estate agents, but that's just not true. I think now, even more than ever, the reason why they're wanting to acquire those properties is to be sure that they are listed on their site, and then they get the referral from programs like Flex or agents paying 100%. Them for those leads. And that's where they're making
not necessarily
money.
For that house, just for the lead, right?
So if they list a house and lose $5,000, it doesn't matter because they make $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 from other agents on that property. So fast forward, new quarter, same story. Zillow makes money through advertising on its website, loses money via home buying and for cash and then reselling them. Added up in Seattle, listings and iBuying giant on Wednesday reported 9.6 million net income for the second quarter of 2021 and a 1.3 billion in revenue. Okay, 1.3 billion in revenue, 9.6 million in net income. Is that right?
Wait, read that again.
1.3 billion in revenue.
Okay.
Right. So that's top line. 9.6 million in net income. So after they pay everything and after they sell all the properties and after that's a lot of work for not much money. The figures compare favorably to the second quarter of 2020. Zillow posted an $84 million net loss and a $760 million in revenue back then. But in April through June of 2020 marked the housing market's pandy induced nadir. I've never really seen that word used like that. I know Ralph Nader, but I've never seen that word used separately. By contrast, Zillow posted 52 million in net income for the first quarter and 1.2 billion in revenue for the first quarter of 2021. Zillow sold 2,086 homes through Zillow offers in the second quarter. The instant home buying program netted 1,975 sales in the first quarter. Slow, Zillow steady. I'm not going to read the. Well, you guys can check some out on Housing Wire, but basically the iBuyer program is still losing money, but Zillow is still making a lot of money off of agents paying for ads or sending them referral checks, and I think that's their long-term play. There was talk whenever Zillow started their own brokerage. What does this mean for agents? Are they looking to take your place? No. I mean, everybody that I've ever talked at Zillow says no. They say our primary business is through agents, and if they could get 1% of all transactions, that would be huge for them, and they'd love that. But that leaves 99% for other agents in the marketplace.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you,
When
agents,
it did switch. Remember when Spencer Raskoff left and then came over to Rich Barton? It did shift a little bit. The information that was coming out and the quotes from the CEO changed. The vibe changed. So it was like, uh-oh. But then now we're here, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of the same story, just a different verse, I guess you could say.
And I wanted to add, I just wanted to add to that the iBuyers kind of just being a marketing tool is they reported to, let me see who they reported to, the Securities and Exchange Commission they reported 228 million unique monthly visitors to its U.S. home search site. 228 million unique visitors. So wait,
that would be a huge problem if they were. Oh yeah, your camera went out there. That would be a huge problem if they were adamant about that being their only stream of income. But it's, you know, it's not. They're not looking for website visitors just to have website visitors and sell ads.
Right.
They're looking for website visitors to convert to clicks to give to agents to make money.
Right.
So I'm less the dire straits for agents due to Zillow, but I will say that as an agent, if you're looking for, you know, a streamlined process for your clients and you think that's going to win versus Zillow, you're wrong. Streamlined, a robot can do. You know, you have iBuyer, you have OfferPad, you have all these things that are hitting the market that streamlined is going to take a good care of. And so if you're just looking for smooth and streamlined, you're behind. Instead, you should be really looking for a consumer experience that really wows your customer and takes them to another
100%.
level through the whole process. And if you do that, now you will have the advantage. And so just keep that in mind as you're looking at the Z. They're looking for streamline so that they can send you people so that you send them money. What you should be looking for is to create an incredible consumer experience through the process of buying and selling.
And then, and that's why they cannot fade you. They cannot come after you if you're creating that experience for them. Now, Ray, I have a question for you.
What's that?
We've had these real estate companies start their own mortgage. What if a mortgage company started a real estate business?
That'd be really interesting. Rocket Homes is going to give it a go. You might recognize that name from Rocket Mortgage. This story comes to us from Inman. The parent company, Rocket Companies, of the nation's largest mortgage lender, plans to get into the iBuyer and real estate brokerage business through its Rocket Homes subsidiary. Where is it? Rocket Homes, which is already licensed real estate broker in all 50 states, is the operator of property search site and a agent referral network, will hire on staff real estate agents and launch an iBuyer program through the remainder of the 2021 to 2022. So this is really interesting. That's the gist of the whole story. You guys can read more on Inman. But the gist of the story is, hey, they're starting a real estate brokerage. Oh, wait, it's mainly for iBuyer programs. And if there's one thing that I think we'd love to see bank and mortgage companies take on, it's huge losses. Wait, what? And we just got through talking about these companies losing huge money with Zillow and some of the other iBuyer programs. Didn't Redfin have an iBuyer program that hasn't made money yet? All these companies,
they all do
made money through their iBuyer program, and now Rocket Homes wants to also take that on and put losses on their books. I don't fully understand it.
Well, when's the last time we covered Rocket Mortgage?
No, I don't think we've ever covered them.
Now we are.
I guess, now we are. So there's the news. So I'd love to hear some of your thoughts and opinions on that. I haven't been to let's see. Clayton Fernando Strem says Zillow is making up on the lending and title side too. So that's the other part of this. I guess Zillow does have a title company and a lender. So they're going head to head with other big companies like Rocket Home now. And if you missed the show yesterday, the
pre-show show,
the show prep show, I keep on
the show prep show. Yep.
Pre-show is really only open to Matt, producer, is to hear us chat.
Yeah.
Before the show, maybe we'll start recording that one day. But the show prep show, if you were there yesterday, you heard a story I told about a Rocket Home, their referral group. And so don't miss those kinds of stories. And in order to hear those, you want to be available on Tuesdays around 2:00 Central Time in the Clubhouse. It is not broadcast anywhere else but in Clubhouse. But me and Dan will meet. We'll talk about some of these news stories Shout out to some of the contributors this week. We appreciate you guys talking to us about articles. Matt LaMarche, who we don't mention enough, was in there. And then little insight. And then Peggy, she had a big contribution this week with an article that totally skipped our radar because it came out last Wednesday and was just buried under a lot
more
of other
local
news.
Yeah,
it was kind of produced as more of a local story. It was hard to find, but that's a huge news story that, you know, Georgia and Alabama are suing and to get the eviction moratorium lifted there too. So huge shout out to you guys. Thanks so much for joining us on the show yesterday. Thank you guys for contributing to the show today. For giving us your comments, for joining and not being afraid to say something that'll be recorded and broadcast and to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Speaking of thousands of people, if you guys do follow the podcast, you can look us up in your favorite podcatcher as the Bearded Men of Real Estate Show. And when you do, we'd appreciate it if you would leave us a review and comment on there. That way other people can also find it. What's happening?
Just Clubhouse has a thing with avatars. It's interesting to watch people change their avatars as we go through the show.
Oh, that is funny. See, you gotta be on top of it. Matthew, Matt, Justin, all changing their avatars related to each other. Justin is now upside down on Matthew's. Great. Matt's is inverted, so Justin and Matt are facing Jen, who's in the middle. You guys, I gotta here. Can you see this?
It's a little bit like the what's it called? The why can't I remember what's it called? The Brady Bunch.
Oh, there it was. I think my phone just turned off. I think I already got it back. Hang on.
Yeah, Bearded Man's here. He's good.
Bearded Man is here. It still shows me in the room though, but my phone
you're
totally
here.
Died and turned off. That's pretty funny. Okay. Well, thanks everybody for joining the show. We really appreciate you guys. We made it just in time. Dan, tell everybody where they could find you, man.
DLudwigRocks, DLUDWIGROCKS everywhere. Go follow me here on Clubhouse. I am currently sitting at, hold on, 99 followers. I need one more. I'm going to be at 100.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's push Dan. Push him on up there to 100, everybody. You also might want to follow the Bearded Man who's chatting now.
Yeah.
The Bearded Man is the backup account, but you can also find me, Ray Ellen. You can just search me up in Clubhouse and I'll appear there. We also want you to follow the Clubhouse room, the real estate networking group. That's that little greenhouse at the top. Click that and click follow. We'll add you to the membership.
And if you don't, you need to. There is so much value that comes out of it, and anyone that you value. So like you can follow anyone, but then put the little bell on. So whenever they go in and talk, you can get notified, and it'll ask you sometimes, all the time. So you get a little notification like, hey, Ray Allen is talking. And if it's in a room that you're interested in, go hop in and you can just listen while you're driving. It's really an amazing tool. I'm happy to be a cool kid now like Clayton is, because Clayton's on and I follow Clayton. I don't know if he followed me back or not, but it's an amazing tool.
I'm going to go find him. We see Sandy Christian. Thank you guys. Roy.
102 followers. I just got 3.
Steven. Whoop. So Bearded Man, you guys can follow that one as the backup account. You know, if he appears, that means Ray's got low battery.
Yeah, and on that note, since I'm asking for followers, if you want to buy me a drink, DLudwigRocks over on the Cash App, DLUDWIGROCKS.
Oh, that's funny.
Just kidding. Love you guys.
You guys can follow me on Ray Zorback on Instagram, RAYZORBACK. Follow
everywhere.
Everywhere good Razorbacks are sold. Dan is DLudwigRocks, DLUDWIGROCKS. We really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day and joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the news stories. Leave some comments, leave some feedback, hit the bell, subscribe, do all that jazz. Bye, everybody. We love you.
Love you. Bye.